How about the don'ts? Well, this is more of a do. You want to minimize risk in terms of the blend of both debt and equity. As much as you want to minimize your cost of capital, you also want to minimize risk, and that usually means minimizing the amount of money that you borrow as much as you can. Don't assume that all capital is a commodity, whether you're borrowing money from a bank or taking investment capital from investors. The money itself might be a commodity, but what comes with the money could be very different. I know I've been very fortunate. I've had banks in the past that not only did they lend me money, but they became strategic partners for me. They helped me find customers. They helped me, find vendors. They became strategic partners. Same thing with investors. When you're looking for investors, you're not only looking for their money, but you're also asking the question, what else can this investor bring to this business? Knowledge, experience, other investors. So don't assume that all capital that you might get is a commodity, all the same. Your deal should never appear to be shopped. So when you go to the bank, the last thing the bank wants to know, if you may have talked to 6 other banks, and that's not a bad idea. But the bank doesn't want to know that your loan is being shopped, because what they assume is that if they're the 7th bank that you've talked to, that the first 6 have rejected your loan application. They just assume that. And they're wondering, why would 6 banks reject this deal, and why would I make the loan? So while I would strongly encourage you to shop for money for your business, you don't want your deal to appear to be shopped. And so an example of that would be, you can talk to as many lenders as you want, but when you actually fill out a credit application, that's going to show up on your credit history. And that's visible to any bank when they look at your credit history. So you can have the conversation, just don't complete a loan application until you're certain or near certain that this is the bank that you want to borrow money from. Because again, that's when it's going to show up on your credit history. Okay. Don't create such an aggressive capital structure that you take on disproportionate risk. Again, this goes back to number 1, minimize risk. As we're balancing our debt versus equity, be careful. I think I mentioned this last week, that if your debt, what's called your debt to equity ratio, which is how much debt you have versus equity, when that ratio goes higher than 4, you're now considered unbankable. Too much debt, not enough equity. For most small businesses, a ratio of 1 is a pretty good mix. For every $1 of debt, $1 of equity financing, 50-50. Okay. And last, I think this is the last don't. Yeah, last don't, very important, no surprises. A lender will tell you this up front. No surprises. If you had to write off a loan in the past, tell me about that. If you've got a bad credit score, tell me about that. If you're in the midst of a divorce, tell me about that. Because they will find out. Banks will do their due diligence. And they would rather, if there's bad news, they would rather hear it from you than find out from someone else. No surprises. Okay.